This unit of instruction will be held for new volunteers at the Signal Hill Public Library. Instruction will provide volunteers with information regarding the organization of materials in the library and how to use call numbers to identify the location of materials. Volunteers will learn how to properly shelve and retrieve materials. Needs assessment. The Signal Hill Public Library receives a numerous amount of volunteers throughout the year, with a range in familiarity and experience of the workings of a library. However, there is a lack of formal training for volunteers to learn the organization system of the library. This unit of instruction will work as an orientation workshop to help volunteers become familiar with the environment in which they will be working. Having clear goals and expectations will help volunteers become more at ease and confident in performing their duties. Instructional goal. The goal is for volunteers to be able to independently and comfortably work shelving and locating materials as requested by a patron or a staff member. Volunteers should grow to be more confident in their skills of navigating the library space. Goals can be measurable through activities which will demonstrate that the volunteers have mastered these skills. Learning objectives. Volunteers will learn to perform various skills corresponding to their assigned responsibilities, which include, but are not limited to, shelving and retrieving materials. In order to efficiently perform these duties, they must possess the following knowledge and skill set. A. Learning the physical layout of the library. Volunteers will learn how materials are organized and where they can be found in designated areas in the library. B. Call numbers. Volunteers will learn how to read spine labels. They will learn the different types of call numbers that can be found in the collection and become familiar with what each abbreviation means and how it identifies the relationship between the item and where it is located. Instructional design plan. The instruction will be conducted on library premises in the meeting room. The instruction will be conducted in person by a qualified staff member. Ideally, an assessment of volunteer knowledge and skills about the library will be conducted pre-instruction in order to best adapt the lesson to fit the knowledge and skill levels possessed by the volunteers who will be participating in the relevant workshop session. The number of volunteers that are present for orientation will vary. Ideally, larger groups can provide for more interactive activities between learners, but instruction should be easy to be adapted for large groups or one-to-one instruction. The format of instruction depends on the amount of time and resources available from the library and its staff members. Simple instruction can include a straightforward combination of Microsoft PowerPoint slide presentations, since this is a software that the library owns, and simple activities. Pre-instruction assessment. An assessment of the following skills will help library staff gauge the breadth of information needed to be included in the instruction. This includes their skill set regarding letters and numbers, or more specifically, alphabetization and numerical ordering. Are volunteers able to do basic alphabetization? This skill is crucial in determining whether volunteers will be able to understand the arrangement of materials based on authorship and/or title. Numerical ordering. Do volunteers understand and are able to correctly arrange numerical decimal figures by value from lowest to highest? This skill is important in determining whether volunteers will be able to accurately organize books by the Dewey Decimal System. Other than these skill sets, we must also examine the motivations and reasons of why they are here. We have a mix of volunteers. Some are high school students and some are college students. Most high school students are here for school credit or for an extracurricular activity to add to their college applications. College students are actually paid for their work as they are working under the Federal Work-Study program. It is important to reaffirm a volunteer's purpose of working at the library and emphasize how their attendance and completion of the orientation workshop is relevant and significant in allowing them to successfully perform their duties. The instruction would ideally include discussions, diagrams, and activities. Informal interactive discussions would involve asking questions and discussing volunteer experience with the library. For example, are they familiar with libraries in general? Have they been to the Signal Hill Public Library before? How would they go about finding a book or materials? How do they think materials are organized? The discussion should facilitate or let instructors gauge the familiarity of the learners with the topic. Diagrams. Diagrams and handouts are excellent visuals to help volunteers map out the placement and organization of materials. Important diagrams to include is a map of the physical layout of the library. Different libraries have different systems of labeling and organizing their books. Libraries have designated areas and spaces for different age groups. The Signal Hill Public Library divides their material according to the age groups of which the books are intended for. The diagram will show where these different sections are, which include children's, young adults, and adults. The map or diagram showing the physical layout of the sections should incorporate photos of the real space. A diagram showing examples of spine labels and call numbers in the library collection should be provided for the volunteers as well. Volunteers will learn about the use of spine labels and call numbers, which reveal which section of the library the materials belong to and where it can be found. volunteers will learn the different abbreviations of call numbers and the associated areas to which they belong. A diagram or chart should illustrate this concept, moving from generic to specific. For example, volunteers will learn that in general books are categorized as either fiction or non-fiction, and are further subdivided within the age group they are intended for. Actual materials should be incorporated from the library collection as examples. For example, seeing that a call number that begins with a J means that the book is juvenile and belongs in the children's section, and that the abbreviation of FIC means the book is fiction, as opposed to a set of numbers which would identify the item as a non-fiction book. Instructors should also explain how books are further broken down and organized within the different sections themselves. For example, a J and a FIC together would mean the book is a juvenile fiction book and belongs in the children's section, as opposed to a book labeled YA FIC, which would belong in the young adult section. Note the different types of books and call numbers that will be found in each area and section, and once again, it is important to incorporate actual materials from the library collection as examples. Instructors will also explain the system used for the call numbers. Fiction books are arranged alphabetically by author last name, and non-fiction books incorporate the use of numbers and author last name. Instructors will also explain the general idea behind the Dewey. There's no need to delve into specifics, but provide the generic logic behind the numbering system. There are various short and entertaining videos on YouTube that explain the Dewey Decimal System that would be a great resource to incorporate in the lesson. Reiterate how skills volunteers were assessed during pre-instruction, such as the alphabetization and numerical ordering, is relevant to their duties shelving and finding materials. Activities. Activities can be an assortment of things depending upon the staff and instructor and the number of volunteers present. It can be a combination of encouraging note-taking during lecture, organizing a sample of books on a cart to see if volunteers understand the concept that was presented in instruction, or have volunteers play a game of locating different materials in the library, like a scavenger hunt. Performance evaluation. To determine whether instruction was successful, volunteers may be evaluated by taking a test to assess their familiarity and knowledge about alphabetization and decimal systems, similar to the one they took pre-instruction, in order to see if there has been an improvement or change in knowledge and understanding of their skills. Learners will also be evaluated by the rate of success of books and items they shelve appropriately in the library. Current process involves having volunteers use red paper slips tucked into the books that they have personally shelved away. The staff then checks after volunteers have completed their tasks to see if the books were put away in the right place. These are, of course, merely suggestions, and instructors may choose to incorporate them as they see fit, or implement more relevant or efficient evaluation techniques they prefer. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for listening.